back on the Boulevard Sunday, May 11th. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. Week 7 of the UFL in the books on Mother's Day. TPG and I both back in the win column. And first, we're here to recap it all with another fastest 3 minutes in the UFL. We start Friday night in the Alamo Dome. San Antonio hosting DC. Final play of the first half. Kevin! Loose ball on the turf. Anthony Hines. Home alone in the end zone. And just like that, we're tied up at 12 heading into the break. Now into the fourth, DC up 1. Jordan Tamu finds Braylon Deion Sanders. Prime time down the sideline in Texas. And the defenders go back up 7. Next drive for the Brahmas. It's Jay Sean scoring a touchdown, down. Corbin, 57 yards to answer. DC still up 1. 2 minutes to play now on the goal line. It's a fake. DC's got a gunner. Mess with the bull, you get the horns. 304 pounds in the end zone, and the defenders win it. Puka on hand to protect his brother from fans as Arlington hosted Michigan. Early second, Panthers down 3. It's Bryce Almighty, gonna take it himself. Get off me! Gracefully falls on his own fumble in the end zone to put the Panthers up 6-3. 2 minutes to play now, tied at 18. Perez to Sal Palantonio Canella. Bandits back in front by 6. 7 seconds left now. Perkins escaping, running, leaping. He's short. Game over. But wait, timeout Michigan. 1 second left. And they hand it off to Samoa Toa. Touchdown. No extra point kicks in the UFL. You gotta earn it. They go back to Toa, drinking Zoa. And the Panthers walk it off 25-24, ripping the hearts out of the Arlington Renegades. Skip Holtz down to his 14th quarterback hosting Houston. Late first, Stallions down 12-6. It's Cookus. Picked off by Matt Damon Arnett. He goes full Jason Bourne in Birmingham, 18-6. Roughnecks lead it at the end of 1. Into the fourth now. Stallions down 4. It's Jamar Geno Smith to Jace Howard Sternberger. Hey now. All the way inside the 5, 3rd and goal. Smith dancing. Whoop! Touchdown, Stallions, 27 unanswered. They complete the comeback. Houston, we have a problem. Mother's Day in Memphis as the Showboats hosted St. Louis. Scoreless, mid-first on 3rd and goal. It's Mad Max Duggan taking his game beyond the Battle Dome to go up 6-0. Late first half now. Dresser win to Jonathan Quincy Adams, President 6. Boats cut the lead back to 4. Next drive, Duggan gonna find Jay Peasy, his first score of the season. Battlehawks sink the Boats 19-9. Man, TPG, these games, they just keep getting more exciting every week. I feel like the league is getting more eyeballs on it. And if we could do our part with these little highlight videos, we'll keep doing it, man.
Yeah, I thought it was a great weekend of football. A lot better than last weekend, but I mean, those first 2 games of the weekend, like absolutely down to the wire. And even the first game today, I mean, that was a complete comeback. Didn't expect it, but yeah, awesome stuff out of the UFL this past weekend.
Yeah, we got overs hitting, and we got all those road favorites. I think there was 3 of them this week. All avoided the upset. I thought we'd see one. Friday night got real sketchy. DC was able to pull it off. St. Louis at times, you were wondering, if Memphis could get the offense going. It got a little scary at points. And then, of course, Michigan looked dead in the water there for a while until MV Perkins got on his horse and rode it all the way to a 1-point win. We got a lot to recap this week. Let's take a look at our standings first. So this is really interesting now because you have some great games in Week 8 as Michigan and Birmingham are both 5-2. Birmingham still with that head-to-head tiebreaker to stay in first place. Houston did not get the luck they needed the past 2 weeks, really. I know they won in Week 6, but they didn't get the win that they needed this week to stay in this playoff hunt. Now kind of a full 2 games back. You pretty much chalk Birmingham, Michigan up as the USFL playoffs. Memphis is 1-6. On the XFL side, kind of the same story. St. Louis and DC, both 5-2. I think Arlington still has another outside shot if they can find a way to knock off DC in week 8, but that's going to be it. That's their last chance. And the Brahmas fall to 1-6. Into our best bet results, TPG, we pushed this play. You called it play of the year.
Hey, no, speak for yourself. Don't
you
don't rope me into this.
Don't lie. You tailed. I know you tailed. You can lie and say you didn't tail. I know you did. It was never a doubt. Never a doubt. I didn't have to sweat. I knew I had faith in my team all along. Of course at the end of the game, a backup right tackle was going to catch a touchdown pass to cover. I already expected that when I made this play. You people got to listen. You got to listen and make money. Right? That was never a doubt. I never sweated for a minute. I don't know if I could even convince anybody with that. It was absolute sweat. I was we had some good Discord on that. I mean, you FaceTiming me right after that happened, and you're shirtless in your living room, waving it around, being like, and we're both just like laughing at each other. It was like, I might have been naked at that point.
That game and kind of like the Birmingham game were super identical. It's like home fit, or like you have favorites, 6 points or more, and then when you didn't think it was going to happen, they cover at the last minute. I mean, absolute pandemonium, I think. And Matt, that was so fun on Friday night.
Yeah, DC -6.5, the biggest single bet I've ever made on a spring football game. The things that needed to happen and the stars that needed to align. And we talk about the early line value. Like if you were on late at 8.5 or 9, you did not win. So you got to get these lines early. I talked to a lot of people who were able to get in at 7.5. Luckily, they cover with the conversion. DC got the conversion after that score too. I was safe at 6.5. But yeah, I mean, there were points where, I could not believe, like, even at the end of the game, TPG, when it comes down to 4th and 2, even if DC gets a first down there, I'm not covering because they're going to need it out. Like, there was no reason to give San Antonio the ball back. Mm-hmm. When they ran that fake, I got to give it to Fred Keiss, man. I owe Gunnar Britton a steak dinner and a shot of Terramana for that.
I feel like though, it's always DC is always a team that, like, when they have the ball late, they always find a way to pull it out. It's just like
good in the red zone. Yeah.
No, exactly. Like you if you're backing them and they have the ball, they're driving late, they're down, like you always feel good. I don't know what it is. Like you don't feel the same about like the Renegades, for instance, and we'll get into this later, but like DC, I mean, like it seems like throughout, last year, this year, even in the XFL, it's like they always come up clutch, and I mean, that probably contributes to Jordan Tiamo being consistent in that offense, being the 3-year starter. And you know what? That really shows across all the different teams.
Yeah, and I joke and say, never a doubt. But when Mike DeLello comes in that game and Jordan gets hurt, I think he had a little stinger maybe.
Yeah.
That was the turning point where I'm thinking, it's just not meant to be. Hey, Mikey D held his own in there. I think he had 3 or 4 plays, and all you can ask from there is make the right read, don't turn the ball over, and just stay in long enough for Jordan to get back out there. Jordan comes back in on 4th and 2, and they run the trick play. DC has some trick plays in their bag. We've seen that. They call that one the cover play. That's what we're going to refer to as that the whole time. But I can't imagine really anybody was on the Brahmas plus 6.5. If you were, sorry to hear. That's a brutal beat, but there was worse beats this week.
Did we even officially announce we're going into this game? Because I feel like we just jumped right into it. I mean,
no, we're not going to do it yet. I'm still in best bet results. I just wanted to take a little victory lap because, I pushed the play pretty hard on Thursday, and I sold the wife, sold the kids, sold the swing set, did the whole 9 yards, and made it the play of the year, and Thank God it came through. Let's just put it that way.
Hey, but the Sharps
out
would not.
tonight.
The Sharps would crush you for it because they were like, the public didn't get that. The public didn't get that number. I mean, we just beat the books. I mean,
yeah,
crazy.
And there's going to be some more opportunities to do that. Houston and Birmingham did not have as much capital on this one, but that is a loss. I think I joked on Twitter that it was at 37 by halftime. I had the under 38.5, so really all I needed was a scoreless second half. That did not, that kind of went off the rails. I thought the defenses were a little better, but clearly Houston.
Hey, that happened for Houston though. They had a scoreless second half.
Yeah, right. Just
it came in on one side for you, but just not the other.
Yeah. So best bets were 10-10. We'll take it. We'll take it because DC was the hammer play. We come through with that on 6.5. All right. I do want to talk Michigan Arlington first. Because I do think it was the most entertaining game of the weekend, just from the a fan of the league perspective. Obviously for me that DC win was incredible. I'm sure you enjoyed St. Louis, but I think this game stood out. And this series going back to last year, we brought this up on Thursday. It was a 1-point win last year with Jake Bates kicking it through, and I figured maybe Arlington would get their revenge. Quite the opposite. They get their heart torn out. Second year in a row, 25-24. I want to give Michigan credit because I think I had called you during the fourth quarter. I think you were on maybe a little bit on Arlington money line, and I was big on it. Yeah, I said, "You're not out of the woods yet, man. Like if Perkins gets the ball back, he's gonna have his moment. Like he just people tweeting like, oh, Bryce with a dud." It's like, no, it's coming. Like, this guy's going to make the play, and Michigan's going to end up winning this game. And, yeah, I give them a lot of credit. However, I feel for James Baker and the Renegades fans because this is the second game where, realistically, they're 2 plays away from being 5-2. Right now, you had a false start in the Birmingham game that got looked at for some reason that cost them the game. And now you have this 2 touchdowns, I believe, that they were robbed of. The first one, people aren't talking about. Go back and watch the first drive. They go right down the field. Day Hunter's in the end zone. He breaks the plane on second down. Should be a scoring play right at the goal line there. They rule it short. Why isn't Dean looking at that? Is he out to lunch? Did he get a phone call? Come on, Dean. I mean, Klatt is showing it, and he's saying, I don't know, they might look at that. Well, the play clock's running, so Perez is like, well, I can't afford to blow a timeout, so I got to run a play on third down, and they end up kicking a field goal. So I can't believe they didn't look at that. And then the second one, Vaughn's touchdown, call back for holding. So that's 2 TDs for me wiped off. And then, the one people are talking about is the holding that came down to the end that was denied. Stoops super challenged a defensive hold that was called, and he did not get it reversed. It probably should have been reversed, and that extended Michigan's drive. So just absolute terrible luck here this Renegade season. And if you even go back to last year, TPG, and you look at Michigan-Arlington, it was another game that swung calls in Michigan's favor with an offsides that was missed that allowed Michigan to win that game. So I always bitch about DC and how we don't get calls. I could not believe that Arlington was not getting calls on another level in this game. When push came to shove, though, I don't think they were the better team.
I mean, like, even looking back to last year, right? Like, this Arlington Renegades team, they've just not been able to close out games. They even flashed the graphic on the screen. It was like 1 and I want to say 6 in one score game. So this has been an issue, like, going back to last season. And like you pointed out, those 2 scoring plays and that Vaughn's one before the end of the half. Yeah, I mean, that's a good call by the Michigan Panthers sideline, but obviously, that first one, it's kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Why are you not looking at it? And yeah, I mean, it really sucked being on Arlington in this game. I kind of felt like a little bit of little big of a pig, just not, not just taking the points, but also taking the money, only taking the money line, and kind of felt robbed at the end of this one, because even though, the Renegades haven't scored a drive in, what was it? Or haven't scored on a drive in 24 drives, and what was that, 9 quarters? Like, still, I mean, they felt like in control at the end of that game, and I don't know. There was a lot of things that happened late. I mean, putting the second back on the clock after, all the time ran off, and
that one I'm okay with. I mean, rewatching it,
I mean,
I can't complain about that, but
you get the first down, I understand it. It ends the game, or like you stop the clock right there. But I don't know. Just a horrible way to lose a bet. I mean, Joe Test called out a bad beat in the Birmingham Houston game, saying like Houston was up this much, but I felt horrible at the end of that Renegades game, just thinking like, hey, lose a game that you felt in control of late. But I mean, Bryce Perkins is the MVP. That's why he is, because he could pull that stuff out at the end of the game and, get his team the win.
Yeah, Puka Nacua on hand for this one, serving as Samson's bodyguard, just in case any fans got nasty.
PR director.
At the end, I told James, keep your head on a swivel for Puka. He actually said in his sideline interview he was looking to hit somebody. He's like, normally when I come into a stadium, I'm looking to hit somebody. I'm like, God, that's ironic that you know.
Hey, and we got that in the blooper tonight.
Yeah. But yeah, we talk about Perkins. I recall a play where he is dead to rights. Any other quarterback in this league takes a sack. I believe this was in the first half, and he breaks a sack. He gets maybe 5 or 6 yards on a scramble. I'm thinking, well, that's still out of BT Potter's range because he hasn't been good. What happens? He nails it from 56. Without Perkins getting those couple yards, they punt there, and that's the difference. Like, it's a 1-point game. Those are the plays that Perkins makes that other quarterbacks can't. In this league, you see Perez getting sacked over and over again. I don't know what's wrong with Arlington's offensive line. I know they lost their center to IR last week, but, I mean, another 3 sacks, 10 TFLs for the Michigan defense here. 0 run game for Arlington. Just got dominated in the trenches. So it is pretty insane that they could get dominated in the trenches and still have a chance to win this game. And I think it's credit to their defense and credit to Luis Perez, who played his ass off. Pretty sure this was his high passing of the season.
Yeah, no, he had over 300 plus yards. I mean, he
didn't throw a pick. And you look back to last year, I tweeted out, he was only sacked 14 times in 10 full games last year. He's already been sacked 19 times this year through 7. So they are not playing well up front. Now they are playing well on defense. Like that defense is still capable of winning a championship. They're going to have to beat DC in week 8, but Michigan didn't really have much of a run game going. I mean, you're talking about a team that went 215 on the ground against DC, and then, they got it going a little late with the run game, but Tawa 10 carries, 31 yards, McCrary 5 carries, 13. Like, Bryce is going to get his no matter what, but their actual run game itself was completely shut down.
No, I thought the Arlington defense had a great game. I mean, they stuffed the run. They were getting pressure on Perkins. They were doing everything that we said they had to do in our preview. That's why I was so confident in them, heading into that fourth quarter when they get, they break that touchdown streak. They get 2 touchdowns in that drive or 2 touchdowns in that quarter, and I'm feeling really good. But I mean, just doesn't fare out well for him. I do want to highlight, though, Tyler Vaughn's. He had a massive game. He had over 100 yards or 127 yards receiving on nine receptions and a touchdown. I mean, he had an absolute big day. That's probably his biggest day of the year. But I mean, if you're the Arlington Renegades, Matt, like where do you go from here? Because it looks like, you played such a great game. You held one of the best teams in the league to, minimal rushing yards. I mean, you slowed down their offense for a good majority of the game, but you still come up short. I mean, if you're the Arlington Renegades, I don't know where you go from this after that.
Well, if I'm Bob Stoops, first thing I'm doing is writing an angry letter to Blandino and Pereira because they have been on the shitty end of some of these calls. It's just been unbelievable how many calls haven't gone their way. And coaches are going to start throwing these challenge flags for holds every time. I mean, you could call holding on every play. Everybody wants to come out and say it was an egregious hold. Look at defensive holding and offensive holding, both sides, and the way that super challenges are affected when it's a holding penalty. They almost always call it when they kick it to Blandino if they missed it originally on the field. So, yeah, that was tough to get a touchdown taken away. But there were mistakes that Arlington made here. Like Chuck Long, maybe he calls an all right game, but there was a point that I recall Perez driving down the field, and he runs in a different package with Holt Nailers. I think at this point it's 1st and goal. They're probably inside the 10. And midway through play clock, he's only got like 20 seconds left, and he's running Nailers out. They had to blow a timeout. And then they, I think, ran a stupid double reverse. Vaughn's lost a bunch of yards, and then they put Perez back out there anyway. That killed that whole drive's momentum. They end up settling for one of 4 field goals that they had to kick. I don't know what Chuck Long was thinking. And you could just see Perez's face on the sideline like, dude, let me score. You wonder why we're in a touchdown drought right now, because you're doing dumb shit like this. They were allergic to the end zone. Yeah.
And that's probably why. No, that's not probably why. That is the reason why they lost this game, is because, if they're a little bit more aggressive that first half with those field goal makes, like on 4th down, you try your offense out there instead of your field goal unit. I mean, if you score a touchdown first half, this game second half isn't close. You're pulling away. You don't give Michigan that opportunity to come back and get in the game. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And kind of what we've heard a couple weeks ago is hey, this Arlington Renegades offense or just this team is just kind of hey, when we get up on people, why can we never put the foot on the throat? Why is that? Why does our play calling go so conservative when we should be, hammer on the nail and closing this thing out?
Well, I think losing Kalen Ballage was bigger than we thought. They gave Day Hunter 18 carries. He got 1.9 a pop. And like I said, Michigan had the 10 TFLs, so you have to credit their defense there. Arlington, though, you look up and down this box score, and you would think the Renegades won. They outgained Michigan. They won the turnover battle, which Samson Nakua, tough look. First game back from suspension, fumbles a kick return in front of the whole family.
Armor's a bitch.
Rough. He was in his head a little, I think, for sure.
Maybe.
That wasn't a good look. And Arlington, of course, only settled for 3 there. They couldn't capitalize and score a touchdown off that, but they got a free 3 out of it. Just so many points in this where Michigan just handed Arlington this game on a silver platter. And, yeah, the Renegades, like you said, they just could not capitalize. I still think that Arlington did, at least for the first, 56 minutes, give other teams the blueprint of hey, this is what you need to do against Michigan and against Bryce Perkins, because Perkins did look uncomfortable. I don't know what he was doing on that first touchdown run. Did you think he was celebrating? Because it kind of looked like he was high-stepping it into the end zone, but, you watch the replay and you're like, why would he do that? You know what I mean? He wasn't in the clear yet, so he might have been he might have came up limping on something and then his leg pulled up, but I don't think Bryce Perkins is the type of dude to be high-stepping into the end zone like that.
I mean, dude, that's the definition of having a horseshoe up your ass. You get so lucky getting that thing hit out right before the end zone and then just right in your chest. I mean, that's how you know this guy is just, having an MVP type year, because anyone else, it seems like that's not going back right up to him. That's going to the opposing team. But hey, they come up with it, they get the touchdown, and I mean, the thing that I do want to touch on, Matt, is when Michigan scores late in that game, Malik Turner gets a touchdown, and then he gets a 3-point conversion. So I know we usually call hey, if you get the touchdown and the 2-point, it's an octopus. But what do you call a touchdown and a 3-point conversion? A nonagon or something? What do you call that?
Yeah, that was, Malik Turner's a dog, man. 4 catches, 49 yards, and a score. Also, like you said, had that 3-point conversion. Siossi Mariner had a big game as well. We know these receivers are good. I was underwhelmed by Tawa and McCrary. I know Tawa saved himself there at the end, but ultimately those plays were 1-yard runs. Those are the kind of plays you need Toa Tawa for, because he's your power back. He's, probably one of the better power backs in this league, if not the best one. Doesn't have the speed to be able to get it done, but those are the perfect situations. And we know Michigan goes for 1 all the time, so for them to have to go for 3 and then get it, that's pretty impressive. I can't imagine they practice much of those 3-point plays knowing Mike Nolan. In fact, I thought he was going to maybe go for 1, but I'm like, this guy can't be that insane. I do have to give a little credit to Nolan. He seems like he's getting a little more aggressive and definitely settling in a little bit. And I think he's just doing what works at this point.
But I will have to say, though, after, watching that St. Louis game today and what they did, rushing offensively, I think Toa is definitely best running back down the stretch. I mean, Sailors had a hot start, obviously, but, Toa Tawa is the guy that cannot be stopped. Every time he needs a yard, he's going to get it. If they have a 3rd and short situation, they're going to him, and he always comes up big. He's by far, one of the better, running backs, I think, that in the league this year. And, I think the rushing is kind of like taking a dip, the second half of the season, but he's a guy that, really stands out where it's, hey, this guy's going to perform week after week and, provide some big plays for his offense.
Yeah, credit that Michigan O-line as well. Man, they go, 13 personnel. They bring the 3 tight ends in. That thing is nasty. The fact that they got Oaks, Hicatini, and Weidermeyer in there in those power sets, like DC does some of that as well. That's why they keep 3 tight ends active. Not a lot of other teams will do that. But yeah, Luis Perez last 2 weeks, just getting abused. No time to throw. He's playing really well. I know he had a stinker against St. Louis, but he did bounce back. You called it a get-right spot for the Arlington offense, and they did. It seems like a miscommunication between him and Chuck Long at this point. You can't be bringing Ehlers into this game, and, you don't have a running back. Day-Day Hunter has not been impressive the entire season. I think he's only at, 3 yards a carry total. They only give Davion Smith 1 carry. I know they did sign this Tony Jones Jr. cat out of Notre Dame. We'll see. Maybe he can come in and be sort of like a Letty Brown, name that you might remember. He kind of popped off in the XFL championship when they won it. But, no, they're in trouble. They're just getting pushed around by every defensive line. And you don't have a mobile quarterback, so you can't afford to be getting pushed around up there. He needs time, and to give up a league-high sacks is not what I expected, especially with Jonathan Heimbaugh, one of the better O-line coaches in this league. So I think they had another injury. Didn't Garrett McGinn, their right guard, go down at some point too? So they're thin right now up front. That's going to be a problem against DC and some of these other teams that they're going to have to play. So Michigan 25, and even Arlington 24. Yeah.
I was going to say, even Klatt pointed out, it's hey, when this team gets in the red zone, they're so predictable. Either, there's no threat of the quarterback run, whereas every other team is hey, you have to, keep an eye on the quarterback. So it's easy to, defend this team in the red zone because either they're, drop back passing on, obvious passing downs, or they're running the ball on early downs. So it's there's no threat of that quarterback run. That's probably why, Matt, they bring in Ehlers to bring in that, little dual threat element. But
yeah,
you're not, when they bring him in, it's you're not thinking oh, he's gonna go over the top on us. You kind of know as a defense, hey, they're trying to run it. So but yeah, it sucks because I feel watching the majority of this game, we had the keys for success for this Arlington Renegades team, and losing like that obviously sucks. But yeah, let's put a bow on it.
There were really, one more thing I want to say about this. There's 2 holes in the Michigan Panthers right now. The one is their pass defense is not good, which is crazy because I thought coming into the season they were very good. They're not. Last 2 games, Tamu went for over 300 on him. Perez goes for over 300 on him. Even Max Duggan and Hakeem Butler looked really good against them, and they've kind of tailed off lately. So I think the pass defense could be an issue for them when it comes down to this playoff run. The kick game was the other hole. Hey, BT Potter went out and said, the hell with it. I'll make a 56-yarder, and hopefully everybody shuts up. And it shut me up for now. I have the faith in the kid. That's in the wind, too, outside. Maybe he was just struggling early, and maybe he's better from 50 plus than he is like short range. But yeah, that pass defense is going to be a problem. They are not what I thought they were. I know they're losing guys left and right. Sal Cannella had a stiff arm on their safety where he just ragdolled the guy, threw him out of bounds on that Cannella touchdown to take the lead late. So yeah, they need to shore that up. But if they do, I think that other teams have bigger problems than what they have. Right now, this offense is rolling. I think they're well over 30, if not high 20s points per game. And Perkins is well on his way to the MVP award. And I don't see Birmingham being much of a threat. We'll get into that here in a second. Let's talk DC, huh? Woo! Not what we expected. But in the end, they survive, which is what you have to do in the UFL. You always say, the worst teams are not as bad as you think they are. That was true. And it seems like Peyton Party likes to get up for DC for whatever reason. I don't know if there was maybe something going on behind the scenes there. I do know that DC has been cursed in the Alamo Dome, so it felt so good to get a win. They have never won there. Never. Dating back to that XFL championship game where they were the better team and everything went wrong. And they lost that night. They had a bad loss there in 24 with fucking Brad Wing throwing TD passes to their center, and the guy right tackle we had thrown out of that game for spitting in somebody's face. Like, just dumb things that happen there. And this game opens up, and I'm thinking, here we go again with this shit. Like, we cannot catch a break in this building. And then, finally, the football gods let us get a bounce. What were the Brahmas doing at the end of the half? To snap the ball with 1 second left and go the other way. That play single-handedly lost them the game. I don't know what they were thinking, if they were just saying, let's throw it up because, we can just take it into half then, one more try to Hail Mary. I mean, we had butt fumble part 2.
I mean, even Klatt was before the end of the half. He's saying why is both teams not calling timeouts? San Antonio runs it on first down. DC doesn't call a timeout. They get a couple of chunk yards to get to midfield. I mean, and then, you have that fumble. But aside from that, I thought Hogan played a really solid game. I mean, he really gave this spark to the Brahmas offense. And, Jay Sean Corbin, I mean, he had an absolute day running for that long touchdown in the second half. And he seemed like he was getting, good yards every time he got the ball. But, I mean, Matt, I think the real thing is, what is going on with this defender's rush defense? Because it seems like anybody in this league can run against this defense. And I don't know. It doesn't seem like the recipe for success to win a UFL championship.
They can't tackle right now. And, we raised concerns about this on Thursday. I said they're barely a top 4 defense right now. They just can't tackle. They're missing tackles, and Jay Sean Corbin, a guy who I know Anthony McFarland was out, so we knew he was going to get the brunt of the reps. But a guy like Jay Sean Corbin, who I think probably had less than 100 yards total coming into the season, should not be popping off in one game for 109. I don't know. It just seems like the Brahmas have DC's number this year. Again, that's a game they probably should have won, but I just kept reminding myself throughout that game, the Brahmas are going to Brahma eventually. This is what they do. They shoot themselves in the foot. They beat themselves with dumb shit. And for as much as DC did that back in week 4 when they beat themselves, I just knew, DC's more sound coaching-wise. They're more sound scheme-wise. Pardee does his best. Don't get me wrong. But, there are areas where they have problems. If you look at the penalties again for San Antonio, they actually weren't too bad, 7 penalties. They did hold DC to 1 for 7 on third down, but sure, I mean, I could sit here all night and I could talk about, everything that went wrong for DC, but, Birmingham didn't survive when they had to play a bad team. And I felt like that was going to happen to DC again, and we needed this win to get over that Brahmas hump and move on from it. I will say, right off the bat, Braylon Sanders scores a touchdown. It's taken away. And then we saw a very similar situation then the next day to Tyler Vaughn's in the Arlington game. Funny enough, both receivers said, ball don't lie, Dean. and ended up scoring anyway, which was great to see because I'm like, you can't take their touchdowns away. Ball does not lie. Briley Moore broke out in this game, and you know, I know Sal Canella's probably going to get all UFL. I know I tweeted out that Briley was going to get all UFL after I was pumped up watching him make the one-hand catches, and he's been so good for DC this year. Yeah, I know some people bookmarked that one because it's probably going to be Canella. But, hey, if there was a second team, all UFL, I think Briley Moore has made a case that he belongs there this year. But, yeah, I mean, that, you know, all the nonsense that was going on in the first half was like it eventually had to go. You eventually had to catch a break, and they did with that fumble at the end of the half. San Antonio's offensive line was not very good in the against the pass rush.
No, not at all.
Guys were getting knocked back pretty big by Derek Roberson's just an animal in there. And DC was able to come up with 3 sacks, 6 TFLs. So pretty solid. Again, not great against the run. But, you know, I had some thoughts about the officiating. I thought there was the same white hat that broke my heart in the Penn State Notre Dame Orange Bowl.
Which I love. I love that ref. He's the best guy in this entire league. Yeah, Vanderbilt. Yeah, he's the best.
He's a clown.
Out of the other clown, there's way bigger clowns in this league that officiate, and that guy. I mean, that guy has control of the game, and the coaches respect him. So, I mean, I see why you're gonna call him a clown because he's got calls that goes against your team. But I mean, hey, Vanderbilt, he's the fucking man. Big 12 ref, right? Big 12 guy. He is a Big 12 guy. So
we should probably talk about the DC run game as well for a second because we're talking about championship caliber teams that have weaknesses. Like we just talked about Michigan with their pass defense. Yeah. I think for DC, the defense is okay. I think they can get better. The run game, I don't see really much hope for it all. I mean, Deion Jackson, I know he's been in the NFL and he looks like he's a little quicker than Smith right now, but I mean, 20 carries for 70 yards in your run game. Jordan was not able to run it. They go 3.5 yards a carry. Like, this team cannot run for 100 yards. And you're seeing other teams in this league who are having a similar problem. Arlington, Birmingham, you know, like some of these contenders that are becoming one-dimensional. I'm extremely worried about how one-dimensional this offense has gotten. And it's like Tamu is making so many plays, and these receivers are getting open, so it's like masking it.
Yeah.
But you cannot be throwing this ball. I mean, 80% of the time it feels like. And when you do run, you get knocked back. So I know they tried to run. They kept forcing the run. And there were times where they got some decent chunks. But, I mean, I continue to just be in disbelief. Like, Abram Smith only gets 2 touches in this game. Like, what a fall off from him.
No, it was definitely disappointing to see, like, because I said if there's any week the DC rush offense is going to pop off, it's going to be this week. And, you know, San Antonio held them in check. I mean, Tamu had another good game. We said he was going to have a good game against the secondary. Oh, yeah. He obviously did, you know, throwing for 3 touchdowns, over 270. But, I mean, yeah, Matt, this run game, I mean, I don't know what else needs to happen if it's an offensive line problem, if these guys aren't just seeing the holes. But, I mean, it is I think that's really going to hold this team back. I mean, you know, you look at – I'm not even going to go there. But
if you can't get 100 against if you can't get 100 on the ground
exactly.
you can't do it against anybody. Like, you know, their Brahmas are not a good run defense by any metric.
No, they're not.
So
I mean,
I don't know what the hell was going on. I know, like, bounces went all like both ways. Like, you had the doink from San Antonio's kicker that bounced in. Mm-hmm. It's like, how many times is that?
Lucky.
Yeah,
so
how many times
lucky.
Does that go in? And then Roland fumbles. Roland never fumbles. Like, especially a guy with, like, low center of gravity like that normally holds on to it. That was crazy to see him fumble. So there were bounces that were going both ways, obviously. DC got the biggest one because they were able to score off that butt fumble. But yeah, it was a weird game. Like long touchdowns. Sanders had the 76, and then right after that, Corbin on his horse, 57 yards. Which provided probably the most entertaining Friday night game that we've had all season. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, like, this was, if you're gonna like sit a friend down and say, hey, watch the UFL, like, this is the game you wanted to show them. Like, there was no other game this season that entertaining late in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is what spring football is all about, and I was happy that we finally got one of these games on a Friday night, because it seems like we've had duds. Obviously, I didn't watch the last Friday night on TV, and I can't imagine for those people that did, that 12-6 stinker in the Battle Dome. But yeah, I mean, this game had everything. I mean, a team that shouldn't be up leading, late, against a team that's, had control most of the year, and then, Tiamu and the offense find a way to, pull it out late. Absolutely amazing. And Cornell Powell too. I mean, I highlighted this guy. Anytime touchdown, I believe he was like plus 315. He cashes. Matt, I was screaming at you, saying like, hey, talk to me, baby. I know what I'm talking about.
Can you imagine if this offense still had Ty Scott? Like, it's scary to think.
Oh my God,
how good like the receivers have been, and guys that have gotten opportunities like Sanders and Powell, who probably wouldn't have if Ty Scott would have stayed in and took all the targets. So they've stepped up in a big way, and you have to give credit to Fred Kice for that, because I think just about any receiver could step in this offense. Like, this is where receivers want to be. You talk about back to 2023, Lucky Jackson finds himself in the NFL. Chris Blair finds himself in the NFL. Last year, Kelvin Harmon gets to the league. So now who's the next one? Feels like Powell, right? Powell. Sanders is really good as well. Roland, probably always more of a spring guy unless he can catch on as a returner in the league. Yeah. But, yeah, you think about, like, Cornell Powell, that's probably a guy who belongs in the NFL for sure, seeing him out back off injury. I do want to say before we wrap up this one, it was kind of like right around when I FaceTimed you. I think when I FaceTimed you after the game, I was like through such a range of emotions. I didn't have enough beers in the fridge to get through that. It was such a roller coaster, thinking not only is my team going to fall below St. Louis in the standings if they lose this, but I'm going to lose a lot of money on this game if I can't find a way to cover. I didn't want to put myself in a position, though, where I was upset about a win. Like, watching the game with my girlfriend, I turned around and I told her, I said, no matter what happens, I just want to win. You lose the money, fine. I'm not going to complain, ever. I would never, right? But you get the cherry on top with the cover. Then I FaceTime you, and I'm losing it. And I'd never laughed so hard at a UFL game. And it was because the Brahmas, like, it's like 4th and 39? And
it was unreal.
It's literally 4th and 39 at the end, and you're thinking, I literally asked myself, what could go wrong here? Like, what could possibly go wrong? Well, here's Speedy Stevenson. Catches a 20-yard crossing pattern, and he's off to the races. I'm just staring at this screen like they're going to get a fucking first down. And he fumbled.
And dude,
he fumbled.
The gods. I mean, Matt,
I'm dying. Like,
the
can you
UFL,
imagine being a Brahmas fan this year?
Oh my gosh!
Like, what a kick in the balls!
I feel bad too.
He's going. Oh my!
I mean, it looked like the fans, they brought that energy to the Alamo Dome, especially after that ass kicking they had 2 weeks ago. But hey, they were there. They were loud.
See that?
I mean, I think he's technically part of the team. I think he's like, he just like stepped away for a couple weeks, but he's like technically still the head coach.
It's like Coach K at Duke.
Yeah, you're hanging out with Moose Johnson in the suite drinking beers. It's like, dude, just fucking walk away. I don't know. But just like walk away, dude. Just give it away.
I don't know what's going on, but
I do want to touch on, though, we kind of talked about this earlier. Delio, coming in right away, completing a pass on his first attempt. I mean,
gutsy kid.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some great stuff you'd love to see out of the DC bench. I mean, a
out of
quarterback
Austin
that comes
P. Austin P. There's it.
Comes in with that type of confidence. I mean, that's exactly what you want to see out of your backup.
Yeah, and he was rough last time he had to do that. So he definitely learned from his mistake having to come in. And I don't know that, they were saying on TV Jordan had turf in his helmet. That's not what it was. I think he had a little stinger. I think he got his bell rung.
He definitely got his bell rung. He tapped out. I mean, he tapped out so late, and they're on the doorstep of the goal line, and he taps out, and I'm like thinking, dude, we're gonna lose this bet. Like we're not gonna
Well,
cover. Jordan's not in. They're gonna end up kicking a field goal. But I
I'll
mean,
tell you what,
Delio
yeah,
prolongs it enough to chance
yeah,
for
yeah.
Jordan to get in, and then
When you look at teams like a St. Louis and a Birmingham, like when you talk about title contenders, I think there's still 5 of them in this league. I think Birmingham's kind of on the outside looking in, but yeah, right now, like I could realistically see DC, St. Louis, Michigan, and Arlington still being able to have a good enough game to win a title. Birmingham, I'm still up in the air on, but you could throw them in the mix too. I think the other 3, Houston, Memphis, San Antonio, can't possibly win a championship, obviously. But I think the thing about St. Louis and Birmingham is it doesn't really, like, the system is quarterback proof, is what it seems like. You really think the Battlehawks offense would be that much different if Silvers came in? Like, yeah, it would take away the run threat that Duggan poses, but like Birmingham's another offense where they could just plug anybody in. The skip hold system, it seems at this
oh
point.
wait, I want to get to the wit. Yeah, don't.
We'll get
jump
to
the
that.
gun
But
on
my,
this,
my
'cause
point
I
I'm
wanna
making
get to
is, yeah, my point I'm making overall is I think what scares me about DC, Michigan, and Arlington is they're one quarterback injury away from being completely incompetent. Like, you get Danny Etling back in for Michigan, you're done. You get Mike Diallo in for DC, you're not going to win a championship. And if you get Holt Nailers for Arlington, you're done. So it scares me because it's like Jordan has been able to stay healthy throughout this thing. He takes a lot of hits. So does Perez. Perkins is a stronger guy. So he's got a big frame on him. And, but he's even had his injuries hurdling people and shit. So, yeah, I think, that is one thing about St. Louis and Birmingham that, maybe they could survive a quarterback injury. Where, I mean, obviously Birmingham has, they've kept themselves in the mix after 4 QB injuries, but we'll put a bow on that. DC 32, San Antonio 24. Yeah, it was a little too close for comfort, but I'm totally happy with the win and just survive. Just survive in advance. That's literally all it's about in this league. All right, next up, let's get to St. Louis and Memphis. Let's do that one first.
Yep.
Probably the least eventful game of the weekend, but that's come to be the theme for your Battlehawks. Just win ugly, right? Talked about it last week with Arlington. Do it again here against Memphis. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about DC and how I'll take a win and then bury the Battlehawks for getting an ugly win when my team did it as well. So, yeah, overall thoughts here, TPG, and were you satisfied with? I think you called this a get-right spot for the offense back on Thursday. Do you think it was, or was there still problems here?
No, definitely not a get-right spot for the offense. I mean, it's good to see PZ get in the end zone. He's had a drought for quite a while. Struggled getting his footing in the offense, but no, definitely not a get-right spot for the offense. I mean, Duggan looked good again, running the ball, but I think him passing has a lot to be desired. Throws a pick, but he throws a touchdown too. I mean, this offense, I don't know. It's this team. I mean, I can't be upset after a win. You're stacking wins. This is 3 in a row now, but down the stretch when you start seeing teams like, DC, you got Birmingham next week. It's going to be real interesting to see. I think that's going to be the real test to say, like, hey, how does this team really look? Like, what has been Max's progression over these past few weeks? But, I mean, like you said, ugly win. I mean, defense comes up big again. And at the end of the day, I can't be too upset because my team gets the dub. Shout out to all the Battlehawks fans from St. Louis that took the 4-hour road trip down to Memphis for the $2 beers. I mean, Nick Hand, our boy, tweeted at us saying, like, it's a Battlehawks takeover here at the Liberty Bowl, and absolutely loved to see that. It made me feel more confident about our team. But yeah, as for this offense, I mean, yeah, not much you could say. I mean, the run game still, a lot to be desired. I thought this would have been the week Sailors pops off heading back to the state he grew up in, but it just wasn't there. And maybe next week you get something going against Birmingham, but still you're facing a good defense, and it's going to be hard to win a game where you put up a lot of points. If you're going to win next week, I think it's going to be a low scoring defensive battle.
Yeah, I feel like it's really the same thing with Duggan every week. I mean, he just kind of thrives outside of the offense where he's able to scramble. Another 10 carries for 57 and a touchdown. But you can tell, like, if you look at his body language and his face, every time he has to do that, it's almost like he's not happy. Like, when he scored, he was, like, pretty stone-faced. Like, I don't want to keep doing this. Like,
and he got lit up, too. Eventually. He got lit up.
He's getting hit hard, and he's not the type of guy that's ever going to come out of a game. If you ever question his toughness, go watch anything from TCU that he was able to do. He is a tough as
Go watch that Big 12 championship game. Yeah.
Exactly. And they do take their deep shots. Gary Jennings got a magnificent catch, I thought. Obviously, they weren't able to get Hakeem involved. Only 2 targets there. And, you know, Memphis's secondary stepped up. They played all right. But, yeah, I mean, Duggan, like, when push comes to shove here, he's going to have to develop as a passer. And I don't know if there's enough time left in the season. We talk about what he was able to do back in college with Quentin Johnston when they were at TCU. Quentin was, you know, one of the best receivers in college football. You know, we thought maybe they'd be able to use Hakeem like that, but it's just not the same scheme. Like Sonny Dykes back at TCU was running air raid. He's kind of letting Max sling it. And, boy, Max made some throws today where he was seeing ghosts. There was one right in the hands of Steel Chambers in the end zone. Just pegged him. I don't know how he didn't catch it. He was looking for a dig by Sutherland, and he just completely missed the linebacker. That is not going to look very good on tape. And there were some other ones, like the pick that almost brought Memphis back into it. That was low. That was a low ball, and that was behind Butler. So it's the accuracy is an issue. And, you know, if there's ever a quarterback that seems like a rhythm guy where, like, you've got to get a couple completions in a row or else things will start to spiral for him, it seems like Max Duggan. Like, it feels like, to me, he gets like 2 or 3 bad throws in a row, and he's just like, I'm not throwing it again. I'm just going to run every time before I throw a pick. So, yeah, Battlehawks, though, it doesn't matter because their D-line is so dominant.
So good. So good.
Travis Feeney, at the age of 30, I think, like, unreal how he's able to stay young out there and keep those fresh legs going opposite Pita, who had another stellar game. And credit to this D-line, man. They were without Freedom, which is their one starting D tackle, and then Faiolu's been out. That's their interior right there. And a couple of guys stepped up. Don't know their names off the top, but they stepped up in the absence of those 2 guys, and they were able to contain Memphis' run game, 3.2 yards a carry. Wes Hills got hurt in this game. Not shocking. It's a guy who suffered with injuries throughout his career, and he was just injured for Michigan last year. But yeah, this defensive line, and I guess really you could say just the defense in general, just finds a way to force turnovers and get sacks and TFLs.
I mean, and that's the only thing giving me hope. I mean, by far the best defense in this XFL conference, and they keep up, you know, making these plays.
You know, Arlington could make a case for that, I think.
I mean,
it's
but
close. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's close.
I don't know. It is close, but, you know,
Arlington, I feel like, looked better against Michigan, I think, than St. Louis did.
No, they definitely did. They definitely, they slowed it down. I mean, that St. Louis Michigan game, that was a, you know, high scoring shootout, whereas Arlington, I thought, kept them in check for most of the game. Only 9 points heading into the 4th, maybe. So, you know, this Battlehawks offense looks good. They continue to put up plays, and that's why I'm so confident in them, you know, heading in this later stretch of the season, because that defense wins championships. Old coaching adage, and I mean that's gonna carry this team throughout the rest of the season.
You know, all the flack we're giving Max for his inaccuracy, man, it came back to bite Memphis with Dresser win today. Oh yeah. I mean, Daywood was wide open on a go route, ran a perfect
that could have been
route.
The difference right there. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was the Daywood Davis trademark play. Like, that was what I was waiting for. I think they set his prop at like 17.5. I knew it was just going to be like one big catch. You know, that's how it is with him. That's how he was able to land himself all UFL last year, even though he played with like 5 different quarterbacks. He just missed them. And not only did he miss them, he came up gimpy. It looks like he pulled his hamstring on the play, which I think that was the injury that he had coming in. Now, he did go back in the game, but you could tell he was in pain So I don't know if he did catch it, if he would have been able to outrun the corner because he looked a little gimpy. That kind of brought me back to the DC game a little bit. Did you see on that Sanders touchdown, Bo P. Keys ripped his hamstring right out of socket?
No, I think that was bullshit. I think that Hammy was like, "Hey, I just got beat deep. I'm gonna act like I pulled the hammy."
Oh yeah.
I was laughing at that. Me and my dad. Me and my dad, we were watching that. We're like, "You think that guy's bullshitting?" Like, "Hey, I'm just gonna
argue
limp up and exactly. I'm gonna come up limpy on this one and be like, yeah, I pulled my hammy."
Crazy.
But yeah, I'm not buying it for Bo P. Keys. Former Bear though, kind of sucks.
Yeah, but getting back into this one, like St. Louis, 2 for 10 on third down. It's just they live in third and long. They can't get enough on first and second downs to be able to keep themselves out of these third and long situations. Today they were at about 3rd and 9 was their average. I think there's been games before. I don't know the whole season what their average is, but I'd be willing to bet it's within 8 to 10. Like, that is terrible. You cannot be living in third and long when you're not a passing team. You got to get more yards on first and second down. So I will say the O-line played better this week. I know they're rotating some guys with Beach going out. And they're playing that Ashmore kid at right tackle, and they're getting a little better. But yeah, saw a little bit more Jarvion Howard today than I would have expected, and maybe they think he's a little closer to Sailors than we originally thought. But yeah, Jacob Sailors, not the bounce back game that I thought.
No, not
he was
at all.
Gonna have in this spot. This was kind of an ugly game, slopped it up, but St. Louis gets the win, and they had plenty of $2 beers in there. Kids under 12 got in free. That doesn't mean kids that act under 12 got in free, so they had to still pay. But they seemed like they had a good time. Hopefully, they all got home safe and are looking forward to Week 10. Let's see St. Louis bring that same energy to Audi Field in Week 10 on a Friday night, because that's the one that they should be all rallied up about, not the Memphis game.
Well, hey, this is the closest road trip for these Battlehawks fans. 4-hour drive. It's like 7 hours to Memphis, probably another 7-8 hours to Birmingham. If you're gonna make a road trip to any game, this is the game to make it, and I'm happy to see a lot of Battlehawks fans show out for this one, because that's exactly what they needed, right? They needed, take this Liberty Bull out of service. Make it loud for the opposing team, and hey, you know what? I'm gonna credit those fans showing up today, part of this win.
I mean, I guess when every single game you play is at home, it is nice to get out on the road and finally have a road game to play, and they'll have their 11 home games this year, and good for them.
Hey, don't be mad that we're
anything else
we're
about this.
Don't be mad we're the quote unquote secondary hub of this league, because we clearly are. In a couple of years, they're going to be building the headquarters in St. Louis, Missouri.
I hate to say, you're probably not wrong. All right, anything else about this one? Want to move on?
No, I'm about good, other than, hey, I would love to see. It's a big test next week, Offense has got to come up big. I mean, you're facing a good Stallions defense, regardless of how they started. It's all about how they finish, and you don't come out and try to put the foot on them early, put the foot on their neck early. It's gonna be a long fight, and I can't wait for next week. It's gonna be a great game. I think the Battle of the Dome is gonna be
I think there's a huge mismatch. Just thinking ahead, like we'll get into our full preview Thursday, but just thinking ahead to St. Louis Birmingham, there's a huge mismatch. I mean, that Birmingham offensive line is not going to hold up against these DNs. They didn't do it against Houston today. Cookus got grilled back there. He got hit so hard he had to leave. He couldn't feel his hands. So I don't see them holding up against Pita and Feeney. So that might be your biggest advantage. But yeah, eventually you're going to have to score. You can't keep winning games by.
Yeah.
You got to get to 20. You're going to have to get to 20.
Hey, Rod. Hey, and you know what? I'll get buried for this, but I was kind of hoping this would be the game that Rodrigo would miss one, just because it's like, hey, you're playing Memphis, you're playing one of the lower teams in the league. Like, hey, you miss a field goal. It's not the end of the world, right? But he's perfect today, which is great. But we keep talking about it. It might bite my team in the ass if he
even Bates started missing down the stretch.
Yeah,
Remember
he
that
did. He
Birmingham
did.
game?
So.
That was a huge game for them, and he missed a couple of kicks.
But the difference is like Rodrigo, he's a pro kicker. Bates was not. He was just trying to figure it out at that point. So you know what?
Yeah.
I'll have faith in my guy. But if you miss one today, I mean, I wouldn't sweat it at all. Just because when you go that long perfect, I'm done talking. I'm done talking. I'm done talking because I don't want to jinx it.
You know he's gonna be 19 for 19, and you're gonna be down 2 with the game on the line in DC, and he's gonna miss.
Fuck,
you're gonna have Joe Tess on the.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you. All right, Houston and Birmingham. What a mess. Houston, we have a problem. C.J. Johnson, fraud alert, potential fraud alert. Who the hell ever thought this guy could close a game? Nobody. At least nobody should have. 33-25 Birmingham rattles off the last 27 unanswered points to knock off Houston here. I mean, where do you start? Like, what a absolute collapse of the century for a team that had a chance to get the signature win that they have been missing in the C.J. Johnson era. Get out to a 25-6 lead, which, I know it's the UFL, and we've seen a lot of comebacks. We've seen some crazy ones. We saw San Antonio storm back last year to beat Memphis with like a minute 30 left, down a bunch. But this was just a complete domination. Like you said, tale of two halves.
Yeah.
Man, I thought Houston started out this game so well, go down, score on their first drive. Yeah, they gave up a score on the other end, but get the pick 6. 4 out of their last 5 games, they get a defensive touchdown. It's almost like you can chalk that for them at this point. Different defensive back doing it every week. And, yeah, I was even thinking maybe they were going to hold on. I was wondering how some of the Brahmas fans that followed Wade over were feeling, thinking here's us at 1-6 and here's the Roughnecks about to beat Birmingham, but didn't turn out that way, TPG.
I mean, yeah, this game was ugly for the Stallions first half, and they had nothing going on. Cookus was getting drilled. I mean, they had no run game. Houston, complete domination. They were able to run the ball, find open receivers. It was, and like you said, that pick 6 was huge. But, Birmingham gets a spark second half. I teased this a little bit in the preview, but I said Jamar Smith was going to be the savior, and he came in that drive. I don't know how far that drive was, 80-something yards about, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but he drove that team right down the field, and that game-winning rushing touchdown that he had to finally take the lead after they were down, what was it, 25-6? Yeah, 25-6, comes back, and if anyone's a USFL fan, that play was very reminiscent of the opener in the USFL against the New Jersey Generals, where Jamar's rolling out to his right, kind of looking for someone in the flat, doesn't see anybody, sees the cut-up lane right in the middle, plants his right foot, and takes off, gets in the end zone. Great stuff to see. And like I said, Matt, this offense, I think, and this team is going to go by Jamar Smith. He knows what Skip wants. He's familiar with this team, and I think he gives them the best chance to, make a run and, knock off the Panthers in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would push back a little on that again. All credit to Jamar. He was gaming out there today, man. He came in with his, I want to say hair on fire, but he's bald. Yeah, he played, man. 3 for 5, 63 yards. He got himself a couple of rushing yards, the rushing touchdown in there. And hey, I said it, before this game on Thursday that if Birmingham wanted to win a championship, it certainly wasn't going to be with Case Cookus. And it's not really necessarily a knock on Cookus just as much as it is the guy puts himself in situations where he's constantly just getting killed. Like, he's not able to protect himself as a quarterback, and his O-line really isn't able to protect him either. I mean, the guy's going to be in a wheelchair by the time he's 40. Like, he's on the sideline talking about, I can't feel my hands, so if I can't grip the ball, We'll just put Jamar in. It's like, dude, go home. Like, you're going to die out here. Like, we saw him get killed time and time again. He broke his leg. Like, he's out here throwing lead blocks. Like, bro, just Case Cookus, you can rest. Right? Hand this thing over to Jamar. But, yeah, I don't think you're going to get the same result in a full game situation, especially when you got to go against St. Louis with a Jamar than you would. Like, that was a perfect situation for him to come in. And doesn't it seem to you, TPG, like, yeah, Jamar, a little different. He knows the offense and everything. But it seems to me like this is happening dating all the way back to, like, we were talking about this with Nolan Henderson when he came in for Anthony Brown. We were talking about this with Jalen McClendon when he came in for Henderson. We were talking about this with Dresser Wynn when he came in for Troy Williams. And even with Max for a little bit when he came in for Manny. So is it just, like, recency bias where we're like, well, if one guy looks bad, the other guy is going to look great? Or is it these quarterbacks come in and they're like, finally get their chance. They're like, this is my opportunity. And the adrenaline takes over. But like, it seems like when these guys then get to their next start and have to play a full game, like McClendon has regressed ever since his first start. Wynn has regressed since his first start. I don't know if Jamar can keep this up for a full game, but maybe he is their best option right now. Unless they get Magoo back, which I'm hearing that he might be back off IR. Maybe they go Magoo, a little Smith next week.
I mean, I'm not too high on Magoo at all. I feel like I'm higher on Jamar Smith than him, but you do have a point. You coming in when a team doesn't have any film on you, obviously, and we see this in the NFL too. We see these backups have success, and then it's that, second game where they really struggle. And we've seen that play out this year. Not so much struggle, but, the defense is just kind of cue in on, what's this guy's good at? What's he bad at? How can we take away his strengths? Exploit his weaknesses? But I'm not going to tout the horn and say, hey, Jamar gives them the best chance to beat St. Louis next week. But I do think that this offense will be a little bit more productive with him at the helm. If he starts this game, I don't think they get down to as big of a lead that Houston got at the beginning. I think this game's a little bit more closer in the first half, but I mean, we got to talk about Houston, Matt. Like, this team came out fast out of the gates, didn't score a single point second half. Run game came out good. McClendon was playing good, and then they just weren't able to muster up anything the second half. And
and there's a reason for that.
Get,
we know what
there is.
We know what the reason is. It's because when teams are able to make adjustments in halftime, it's over for Houston because they don't have the coaching. CJ's not in there.
And they don't make the adjustments, yeah.
Yeah, and Skip is in there, and you even see him with the All Access. He's in there with Cookus the entire time, and clearly, like, they're making the necessary adjustments. And credit to Skip, man. He finds a way to win games in different ways. We've seen the contenders in this league. Like, DC has an identity of how they win. It's with Jordan Ta'amu in a shootout, right? That's how they win. We've seen St. Louis develop an identity, how they win, play really good defense and kind of muck it up. We've seen Arlington, how they win games with their defense. So it seems to me Birmingham is the only team that's like, you don't know. One game it's a 10-9 defensive battle against Arlington. The next game it's a 33-25 shootout against Houston. So they do find different ways to win football games, and that's credit to Skip. He finally got a fresh shave. The team got over 30. What a wild way to cover, by the way. I know we talked DC up a lot for how they cover throwing a touchdown to a backup right tackle under 2 minutes. This Birmingham cover was inexplicable.
All time.
I was so mad that I decided after I was chirping you on Thursday, we were going back and forth with this, and I said, yeah, just because TPGs laying with Birmingham, I'm not going to lay with Birmingham, but I'm going to take +6. I sprinkle a little bit, maybe like a quarter of a unit. I could not believe I lost the +6. I got a good number, too. That thing closed at 4.5. So
yeah, I mean,
just don't back Houston. They usually cover as a dog, but when Lawrence Keys fumbled
Yeah, that punch out was textbook at the end.
Yeah, and
And
I
then
was
you get
thinking
the
too, like they were. So that was a weird situation because they were on the goal line after they recovered that fumble, right? They're on
well,
the
because
2 yard
that
line.
was because they had there was like a fight basically on that
Yeah,
conversion play before, which
right.
put and there was a 15-yard penalty tacked on to whatever the kickoff was. So that
Okay.
put
Yeah.
Birmingham right at the doorstep, and Skip had in the back of his mind, I got to get this beard off me, so I have to score. And that
Yeah,
couldn't
because
have excited me anymore because I'm sitting there with the -6.5, thinking like, oh my gosh, they're actually gonna do it right here.
yeah, because it was what 27-25, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
well, man, like Houston had 2 timeouts, so I think there was a minute 44 left. So I'm thinking, okay, if you knee it, they could stop it twice. So then you get to third down, you could run a full 40 off on third. So then you get down to about a minute. You could also run a full 40 off on fourth down and kick a field goal. And then you're at like 20 seconds left for Houston to get the ball back, and you're up by 5. But like Houston
EJ's
doesn't
not
have any
gonna
time, and
he's
they
not
blow their
gonna
timeouts.
he's not smart enough to,
Well, no, I think
execute that.
he just had confidence in his defense that even though they were going to give McClendon the ball back, which questionable coaching decision, you're giving McClendon the ball back a minute 33 left, you're down 8. But hey, you trust your defense, and a defense that was without Ronnie Perkins, who's their best pass rusher. I think he went on IR. They played well, and especially in that second half, they forced a turnover, got themselves 4 sacks. It's a good defensive line. We got to shout out our boy, give him some flowers. Jace Sternberger finally had his breakout.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of mad. I've been taking his anytime touchdown every week. Obviously, last week I cash on it, but this week I don't take it. I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna get off this just because he got his score last weekend. Missed out, big opportunity for me. I had a good weekend, but that could have made my weekend a lot better.
Yeah, it's a shame too because it seems to me like learning the kind of like Birmingham Stallions culture and like how their fans are. It seems to me like their 2 favorite players in the franchise are Jamar Smith and Jace Sternberger.
Yeah,
Going all the way back.
2
So
OG
it's
guys,
kind of
yeah.
right. It's kind of disappointing though that both those guys played amazing and they had their smallest crowd ever at that place to see it. It's like you think that would have been the game they really would have enjoyed, because Jace 4 catches, 74 yards and a score he was playing, and then you have Jamar coming in. You're thinking this is like we got 2022 vibes all over again, but they just didn't pull the crowd, and we'll leave the attendance talk for the pundits, but
They did
yeah,
have the guy dressed up in the Stallions or the horse costume, which I absolutely love that dude. He's the best. We saw him last year. He was out there today. Screenshotted him, threw up a tweet about it, but
yeah, I thought I went through a roller coaster of emotions. Imagine being a Roughnecks fan here.
oh my gosh.
I mean, you go from you're on top of the world. You're about to be 4-3. You're about to have a signature win, and you're about to be competitive to get into the playoffs. Then you blow a 17 or whatever point lead it was, and now you're right back to square one. That some teams would do that, like what DC does that when they lose to San Antonio, and you're like, all right, they'll bounce back. St. Louis does that against DC. You're like, all right, they'll bounce back. They're not that bad. Houston does that. We leave them for dead. This was their opportunity. They had a 1-game season. They're dead. This team is cooked. That they needed that. That's going to ruin their confidence. There's going to be infighting in that locker room, which is already very undisciplined. Having to pull Marvin Moody away so that he doesn't beat somebody up there. And I saw Jason there chirping, which is funny. He's always in there. But, I mean, you see, like, these guys are a little animated. I think even CJ made a comment about it that, we'll see coming up in the blooper reel here about how sometimes it looks like they haven't practiced the down. Oh, man. But
hey, these Texas teams are dead. I mean, they're dead. They
I
blow
wouldn't
it
say
at
Arlington
the end
is yet.
this week.
Yeah, I think
I think Arlington is definitely dead. Who do they have next week? If if I could look ahead real quick.
Don't say that.
They
Do
have
not
the
say
Defenders.
that because now they're going to beat DC just because
they have the Defenders. No, they're not. No, they're not. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Man, I don't know. We're going to look at early lines here in a second. But, yeah, man, for all that work that the Roughnecks defense did, just all went to shit in the second half. And we're going to get the playoff in the USFL side we thought we were with Birmingham and Birmingham, Michigan all along. And I think that in my eyes right now, Birmingham is significantly behind Michigan. I don't see them even close right now. If they played today, I would be happy to lay points with the Panthers up to probably a touchdown. They rally and they have a winning culture and they find ways to win, but they do not match up very well right now with Michigan.
We did point out
when you look at Michigan. So
we did point out that DC not going to be able to host a playoff game because they have the women's soccer game. But are we sure that Michigan will be able to host a playoff game? Do they have a high school graduation? Do we
Monster
know
truck rally
about that?
Again.
We have Supercross
Monday Night Raw in Detroit.
Supercross at Ford Field.
Yeah.
Gotta kick them out. I don't know. We should probably look into that. If anyone's listening, if they wanna, throw us a DM about, hey, if Michigan is gonna be able to host a playoff game, let us know, please, because that could be the difference.
Yeah, and we don't even know really for sure if DC that hasn't been confirmed yet. I'm gonna try to find out when I go finally back to Audi Field for the first time in 6 weeks. On Sunday, I'll try to find out for everybody what the hell is going on there. But in my eyes, it seems like they're not going to, if it is the case, they're not going to announce it because they don't want to bring attention to it. They're going to wait until they're for sure the 1 seed, and then it'll be oh, now we should probably deal with this. But why would they come out now and say anything? Because they don't have to yet. There's
a reason why the Reddit's got a hold of that first and the league didn't.
Yeah, that's a bad look. It's kind of a black eye for the league. So they're going to wait, and they're going to probably hope, again, this league continues to hope that St. Louis wins every game. They tell their officials in meetings to make sure St. Louis wins every game, and that's just how it's going to be.
Vanderbilt, give it to us.
When it comes down to the plays that are made on the field, I know DC can make more than St. Louis, and I'm confident in my little future I got right now, plus 600 in the preseason. Watch out. And I got it in a parlay with the Caps, who are in a little trouble right now, down 2-1 to Carolina, but this ain't a hockey show. Let's do the power poll. We're going to keep Michigan at number 1. We're going to keep DC at 2. I think we're pretty much going to keep this all the same, but we're going to go through maybe one change we made. Michigan at 1, DC at 2, St. Louis at 3, Birmingham at 4, Arlington at 5, Houston at 6, and we're going to flip San Antonio and Memphis. I think San Antonio showed that they're at least capable of hanging around with the big teams where Memphis sort of looked lifeless at points today at home. So, I don't want to really get too in a debate on this because, they're just, at the end of the day, meaningless rankings, but the lines sort of do back up what we're saying. San Antonio is a 1-point favorite over Memphis, so odds makers seeing the Brahmas as kind of a pick 'em there. And, for anybody who would push back on us about Birmingham, St. Louis is a 1.5-point favorite there. I know it's at home, so the teams are probably viewed evenly, and then St. Louis gets the home field, but I think 4 is probably as high as you can put Birmingham right now as they're down to their 5th quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at early leans, I mean, St. Louis probably grabbing them now wouldn't be a bad idea. I could see that,
I don't think that moves much.
You don't think so? I can see it maybe closing. No, that's
probably going to be back and forth. Yeah.
But, looking down the line, I think grabbing DC minus a 2.5, not a bad play at all. I could see that line closing a little bit higher just because, recency bias. They look good in the win. Arlington Renegade shit down their pants, but, I mean, that's kind of what I think.
I'm seeing go get Michigan, 3.5. against Houston. I think that's a number that's going to gain some ground. I could see that one closing as high as 6.5. Otherwise, there were some totals. I think San Antonio, Memphis was a pretty low total at 36.
Yep, super low.
I don't think that is. I think that's a crazy number. And then DC, Arlington, when those two teams play, you're always looking at the over. Just peek at the forecast first, as long as it's not torrential downpour or some kind of crazy windstorm. Mm-hmm. You always want to look at a DC Arlington over. That I think every time they've played in like the 8 or 9 times in the franchise history, they've always gone over. And again, with the same offenses and the same quarterbacks.
So I want to ask you before we get out of here, what are your thoughts of having the 2 games at one point on Fox Saturday afternoon? Kind of discussed it earlier, but hey, give us the listeners, what are Matty Fresh's thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, there's kind of 2 schools of thought for me here. One school being, if you think this league is a TV show, which it seems to me like the executives and the decision makers for the UFL view it as more of a TV show than they do as a traditional football experience with fans, then I guess at that point it's okay, because you want to try to be like the NFL and you want to try to do that regional 1 o'clock kick. But from the standpoint of like, you have the flexibility, if you want this league to be a TV show, to kind of move things around. Like, if Houston had won, they should probably move it to where they put the Houston-Michigan game on Friday and then flex the San Antonio-Memphis stink-off to Saturday. But they're not going to do that anymore because Houston lost. And I don't think they were ever going to do that anyway, because it's just impossible to with
change. The venues,
and everyone, like, what they've done that before, though. They did that with the Houston game before. I was actually supposed to go. I think it was 2023. They actually moved the game to a different day. So they can do that if they want to, but it's okay. I'm fine with it, because the Houston-Michigan game is not as important as it was maybe coming in if Houston was about to knock off Birmingham. So I think that you're still going to get Houston and Michigan on the back burner, and then you're going to have St. Louis and Birmingham get the majority of coverage for sure, right? We know that St. Louis has the biggest fan base, but we know that Birmingham is consistently graded number 1 for TV ratings per capita in their market. So a lot of their fans are watching the team but not coming to the games. Again, a lot of old Southerners who just don't leave the house, and they're happy to watch the Tide and the Stallions and whoever the hell else, the Braves, from home, right? A lot of rural Southerners that are pretty far away from the city that are just watching these games on TV. So, yeah, I think St. Louis and Birmingham probably get like 80% of the national coverage, and then Michigan, like in Detroit and in Houston, they'll get the local game, and then it probably won't be, from a cable standpoint, it probably won't be that widely covered in the rest of the country. So you're going to have to pull the apps up, get the streaming services up, get the 2 screens out. I wish they didn't have to do this, but unfortunately they tried it last year as well, and I think the game that they had like 80% on was a stinker, so they actually flipped it. There was the same situation last year. I think it was a Birmingham and a Houston game at the same time as San Antonio Arlington. You remember that? And they actually flipped the national coverage over to San Antonio Arlington. Yeah. So they did this before.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sitting in Chicago.
We'll I know they're experimenting.
I'm sitting in Chicago. You got Michigan, St. Louis going. Hopefully they give me the, St. Louis game on my local broadcast. But if not, I'll pull up the.
You got the app though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull up the app. But yeah, speaking of Chicago, shout out the new Pope, Robert de Prost. What, King Leo now? Shout out that guy. We didn't get shout out him on. Yeah, he was at the White Sox game. White Sox fan. I even love him even more. He's a South Sider, baby. Let's go.
He's gonna bring the guy to bring the UFL to Chicago, huh?
Hey, that's what the White Sox need. They need God on their side, because the White Sox, horrible. At least we're not the Colorado Rockies, but we're not a baseball show, like you said. We're not a hockey show. We're not a baseball show. So,
yeah. And speaking of God on my side, I felt like I had it Friday night enough.
Oh, you definitely did.
Yeah. Sometimes the gambling gods love you. They did not love me in week 6. They repaid me in dividends in week 7 with a crazy cover on it. Like I said, a touchdown pass that it wasn't even a starting O-lineman that caught it. It was a backup right tackle. And yeah, thinking back, that's going to be one of the more fun moments that we had, I think, in the UFL season. So it's good that, you see these moments. Jamar coming in. You see moments in the Michigan game where Tao is running off the field. And, like, those are the exciting things that people want to see that are maybe casuals of this league that, we'll get them invested. They love seeing stuff like that. And as long as the league continues to produce moments like that, we will be here to cover it. TPG, go ahead and plug the socials, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so we got Instagram, TikTok. Instagram, TikTok at SpringBallBLVD. Follow, like, comment, share, do all that good stuff. And let us be the last to wish all the moms out there a happy Mother's Day.
For the People's Gambler, I am Matty Fresh. You never forget, there is no such thing as football season. And we'll leave you with the sights and sounds of a entertaining UFL Week 7.
Great call right there.
TJ,
It's going to be a touchdown.
fucking give him the fucking.
All right, listen. Hold it, hold it. Tell him to come here. I need him to come up. No.
When I come in the stadium, you have a different mode, you have a different energy. You're like, all right, I'm getting ready to hit somebody. So that's normally what I'm used to.
The problem is they look lost. That's what back up. That's what pisses me off. They look like they never had a practice day in their life.
It went off of his own player, a la Mark Sanchez. Sorry, Sanchez, it just happened. It just came out. I don't know what to tell you. And then here we go. It's a touchdown going the other way.
And that means I'm just doing my job. I'm doing my job all day today. All day today I'm doing my job.
Get that!
And if we can just right now on the fly introduce bad beats with Stanford Steve and SVP, there it is. It was 25-6 Houston.
No, he's mad because he had him.
Smith.
Thanks, Peter. Oh, yeah. Hey, happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms out there. Much love. Off us.